G'day guys, another video for you, and this is another job that I do. I actually do a 3-hour radio shift on a drive shift for a rock radio station in Ballarat called Phaze Rock. So we're going to get ready to go to air. So we're going to do weathers and we're going to do various different things as we walk you through a 3-hour radio shift. So you'll hear 3 complete hours of voice tracking. Here we go. Cloudy this evening, down to a low of 4 degrees, 15 and a shower or two forecast for our end of working week Friday. Showers increasing on Saturday with a top of 17, and Sunday we can expect showers easing and a storm with a top of 19. Okay, so I'll just slightly play that back in my ears so I can hear what I've just done. Cloudy this evening, down to a low of 4 degrees, 15 and a shower or two forecast for our end of working week Friday. Showers increasing on Saturday with a top of 17, and Sunday we can expect showers easing and a storm with a top of 19. Okay, so that's the weather forecast coming out of the news. That's what we just did there. So now we're going to come out of a song into another one. So we're going to come out of the Rolling Stones and Fool to Cry, and we're going to come into Chicago. So I'll announce some couple of bands that are coming up after the Chicago song. So here we go. Let's get into Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. Here we go. There goes the Rolling Stones and Fool to Cry on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive, playing the best of the 70s, 80s and 90s every weekday. With Alice in Chains on the way, as well as the Clash are in the mix. Right now, let's take you back in time. Bit of classic Chicago on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. So just checking to make sure that those were right. It's a bit hard for me to see these screens, but that's basically what happens there. So let's play that back. Pretty happy with that one. So let's just have a listen to it back. There goes the Rolling Stones and Fool to Cry on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive, playing the best of the 70s, 80s and 90s every weekday. With Alice in Chains on the way, as well as the Clash are in the mix. Right now, take you back in time. Bit of classic Chicago on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. Okay, so what we've done there is the music overlays underneath. So this is how I do it. All right, let's go to our next voice track. This is one to go into a commercial break, and then we go into what do we call our 4 on the floor. 4 on the floor is 4 songs in a row, which is basically a bit of a mini music marathon. So I've got Custard and Van Morrison to forward announce. On the way is our 4 on the floor. Let's do it. The Clash on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. Every weekday we bring you the songs that you grew up with from the 70s, 80s and 90s. The Tradie Workday is back tomorrow for a Thank God It's Friday edition as we wrap up your working week, playing all your favourite rock hits while you are on the tools. On the way we've got Custard and Van Morrison. They're inside our 4 on the floor. That's next here on Phaze Rock. Okay, so we wait for that file to be saved. Pretty happy with that one. That sounded nice as a bit of a good delivery. Now, basically what that means is that then goes into a commercial break. So that's what the idea is of that one. All right, so we come now out of 4 on the floor. Now, this is a fairly structured format, so it's very much the same pretty much nearly every hour. This is designed around a 3-hour drive show. So coming out of Nirvana, and we'll be going into a commercial break after the 4 on the floor, and we'll be playing some George Thorogood, so we'll announce that as well. Here we go. Let's come out of Nirvana and their song Lithium. Let's do that. It's Nirvana on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive, wrapping up this hour's Four on the Floor, along with Kiss in before that, and their big song Shanty. It is Nick Pollock here. Good to have you with us as we drive you home for this Thursday afternoon. Coming up, I've got a little bit of... Okay, made a mistake there. Now, the beauty of voice tracking is I can actually fix that. Now, what it is, the screen's a little bit hard for me to see, so I'm just going to have a look down and see what I've got coming up. So I've got George Thorogood and Billy Idol coming up, so I'll do that in the back announce. So let's start that one again. The beauty of voice tracking is we can fix it. Here we go. There goes Nirvana wrapping up this hour's Four on the Floor together with Kiss and their classic song Shandy. Coming up for you very shortly. George Thorogood and the Destroyers and Billy Idol are in the mix. So there you go. That's that one. Nice and short, out of the Four on the Floor, going straight into the commercial break. So we do one more voice track going into the news. And being a rock station, this is a little bit more loose because of the sound of the format, because of the nature of the music being played. So what we have to do here is I've just got to change a couple of things to make this actually work where I want it to be. So we'll come out of the Billy Idol tune and we're going into a David Bowie song, which will get us closer to the news at 4 o'clock it'll be. So we'll go into that. So here we go. This is very short, basically just cues the news. And then we're going from there, it'll go into the news after the songs. And then we're back to start the hour again for hour 2. And we go into the weather forecast. So let's get into this. Here we go. All right, we're wrapping out of Billy Idol and the classic Mony Mony. Here we go. Billy Idol's Mony Mony on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive, playing the best of the 70s, 80s and 90s every weekday. We'll update the news and sport at 4. So it's nice and tight. It comes out of the song into the next one. So there's nothing else to do there. So that's basically the first hour of Classic Rock Drive between 3 and 4 is already done. There we go. So we save that. Now, the program I'm using is Play It Live. It has a voice tracking feature. What that allows me to do is to go to the next voice tracking feature, which I've just got to re-log back in because I logged myself out for some strange reason. And that can always be a little bit of an issue. But anyway, we'll log back in and go back into the second hour. Now, it comes up on the screen as the logs are in hour clocks, which means the clocks are set and they generate the music library based on what's been played. So we're going now into the second hour. We'll just wait for that log to come up. We do the weather forecast first, and then we go into the hour from there. So we're coming up into the second hour of the show. All right, the clock's up. So we're going into a bit of Ween. Remember that band? We'll play them, but that's not going to be mentioned in the forecast. But that is the first song that kicks off the hour after the sweeper, which is what a sweeper is basically where the hour starts. So we'll do that. All right, let's continue. Here we go. So we're coming into the weather forecast for the end of a Thursday into a Friday. Here we go. A cloudy evening on the way, down to a low of 4 degrees, 15 the high, and a shower or two for the end of working week Friday. Showers increasing and cloudy on Saturday with 17 degrees. Could be a bit of sun activity in the afternoon though. Certainly hope that does happen. Showers easing and a storm on Sunday as well with a top of 19 and a shower or two clearing on Monday. Back to work, top of 13. Not happy with that delivery, so I'm going to do that one again, just a little bit on the sloppy side, so we can just do this and we can start again. Check that forecast for the remainder of our Thursday. We're heading down to a low of 4 degrees tonight. It'll remain cloudy this evening, 15 degrees the high and a shower or two for our Friday. Saturday showers increasing with a top of 17 degrees and the showers easing and a storm on Sunday. On Monday, shower or two clearing, top of 13 for the start of the working week. Okay, a little bit sloppy, but that's all right. We'll run with that. Happy with that. So this is exactly how a lot of radio stations do it these days. They do it as if the announcer is on air, and they're basically voice tracking it. So it gives us a chance for people like me that have limited mobility, the ability to move around, that I could do this all from home. So we're coming out of the Susie Quattro Classic Devil Gate Drive. It'll be nice and short. It's the 4 o'clock hour, so we like to get into the hour of the music pretty quickly. So let's come out of Susie Quattro. It's on the way. Susie Quattro's classic from the mid-70s. It's Can the Can on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. Nick Pollock here driving you home for a Thursday. Now, that's the Billy Joel song, A Matter of Trust. It's got a vocal start, which means I went from that very quick into that track. So it's got that really, what's called a count-in start. It's got one of those 1, 2, 3, 4 starts, which are very rare in music. But that is what that start is. So to cue that in, you've got to do it really tight. So it goes in, my vocal's got to finish as soon as that count-in starts. So that's that one done. Nice and tight. This is a really tight shift, so it basically just means that we do things fairly tight. So we're coming out of Green Day, Steely Dan's Hey 19. Going into there, so Steely Dan, bit of a classic from the 1970s. So we're going to have 4 on the floor coming up, which kicks off with Silverchair. And I've also got some Led Zeppelin in there. Play a bit of Zeppelin, why not? My Zeppelin fans. So we'll spin them. By the way, you can find Phaze Rock on the Phaze radio app. If you download it at your favourite app store, you will find the app. And if you find, circle way down and find Phaze Rock, you will hear me on air every weekday between 3 and 6, bringing you classic rock drive. Let's get back into it. So we're going to do some Steely Dan, coming out of them with their song Hey 19. Here we go. Steely Dan and Hey 19 on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. We play the best of the 70s, 80s and 90s every weekday as we drive you home. Coming up, our mini music marathon we call 4 on the Floor. We're going to kick it off with some Silverchair, and I'll throw in some classic Zeppelin as well. So again, it's very tight, very clean. That's what radio stations like these days, is it really nice and clean. This is very old school. It's very sort of that old rock radio style of show, so it actually does work quite well. Now I'm just going to look at my logs down the bottom here and see what we've got to end it so we know what we're doing. Yep, okay. What I'm looking at is the end of the hour to make sure that that it will sync close to the hour. It doesn't do a hard finish, it does a soft, but it means we've got the tolerance of about a minute on the end of the hour. That's a bit of technical stuff, but it needs to be pretty close to make sure the track will end where it should. All right, we're coming out of Bruce Springsteen, The Streets of Philadelphia. That's wrapping up this hour's 4 on the Floor. So we'll do that, and then we're going to go into the Counting Crows. They're on the way after the break, so let's do that. Bruce Springsteen without the E Street Band on that particular track anyway. That's The Streets of Philadelphia on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive, with Soft Rock Sunday coming back Sunday morning from 6, playing all your soft rock favourites as you recover from the night before. On the way, I've got the Counting Crows in the mix next here on Phaze Rock. So what that basically means is that I just promoted a show we have on a Sunday morning which plays all your sort of soft rock favourites. So we do that every Sunday morning. So that's what that's doing. It's basically what's called a liner in the industry. We do liners to basically cross-promote what's going on. So in the next one, I'll do another liner, which will be to promote, we've got a song coming up that comes from the 90s. So we have another radio station on the Phaze network called Phaze 90s. So I'll promote that as the liner going into the Bryan Adams song, The Only Thing That Looks Good on Me Is You, from his 18 Till I Die album. So we'll do that as we come out of the song by Cold Chisel, the My Baby song, which was off the East album. That's going to pretty much wrap up the hour, so we'll do that. Then we're into the third hour, so let's get into it. Here we go. Mossy on vocals from the East CD. There is Cold Chisel and My Baby on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. Got the latest news coming up for you at 5 o'clock. Don't forget, of course, if you love your 90s music, you will love Phaze 90s. Speaking of the 90s, here is Bryan Adams, The Only Thing That Looks Good on Me and You, right here on Phaze Rock. Okay, not happy with the delivery of that, so we're going to go over and do that one again. But I'll do exactly the same as I did, but I just wasn't happy with the delivery, so we'll do it again. Here we go. Mossy on vocals with the classic My Baby from the East CD. There goes Cold Chisel right here on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. We play the best of the 70s, 80s and 90s every weekday. We've got the news coming up for you at 5 o'clock. Don't forget, if you love your 90s music, you will love Phaze 90s. Speaking of the Phaze 90s station, here's a big song from the 90s. It's Bryan Adams right here on Rock. Now, what I'm going to do there is I'm going to actually bring that back a little bit so it actually does play into the hands a little bit. I'm not quite happy with the delivery, so let's do third time lucky. Here we go. Mossy on vocals out the front of Cold Chisel and My Baby from the East album from the early 80s on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. If you love your 90s music, you will love Phaze 90s. You'll find it on the Phaze radio player. Speaking of the 90s, here's Bryan Adams. Happy with that. That's much better. So the beauty of voice tracking is I can do that. I can basically go and say, I want to redo a voice track. When you're doing live radio, you don't really have that leeway. So you've got to really know what you're doing. That's why voice tracking is not a bad thing, because you can actually, you can do that. All right, let's get to our last hour of the show. I'll log back in again. I've hit the wrong button again. Okay, so we'll go in and do the last hour of the show, which is the 5 o'clock hour. So we're looking from 5 o'clock. So what I do is I usually focus on the weather for the next day. There's no use talking about the evening, because that would be pretty useless. So basically go into the Friday weather forecast, being that it is 5 o'clock. So people are driving home. They're not really worried about the evening's weather forecast because they're going home. They're on their way home. They're not going to really worry about what's happening for the evening. All right, so let's get into the final hour of Classic Rock Drive for this Thursday afternoon. Let's get into it. Okay, all right, let's do it. Cloudy tomorrow with a slight chance of fog in the early morning. There is a medium chance of some showers, most likely in the morning and afternoon, with light winds for our Friday. 15 degrees the expected high. Showers increasing on Saturday with 17 degrees. And showers easing, but a storm forecast for Sunday with a top of 19. Now, for those of you wondering what I'm looking at when I'm reading the weather forecast, I have my mobile phone with me taking the weather forecast in, and I'm using my tablet for the screen so that you're watching on. So a bit of technology being used. So I'm looking at 3 screens at once. So it's actually quite a bit of a challenge. But anyway, here we go. So we're coming out of the song Harvest by Neil Young. There's an oldie but a goodie. We're going out of that, and we're going to go into Van Halen and their song Panama. What a classic song from the 1984 album. We're going to do that for you very shortly. Here we go. Let's get into Neil Young and his song Harvest. We're coming out of that one. Let's go. Neil Young and Harvest on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. We play the big songs that you grew up with every weekday. The Tradie Workday is back tomorrow from 9, playing all your favourite rock hits while you're on the tools for a Friday. Let's continue those classic rock hits. Here is Van Halen's Panama, right here on Rock. Now, as I say, for those of you who've still here, don't forget to download the Phaze radio player, and you will hear me every weekday between 3 and 6 on Phaze Rock, which is the rock station on the Phaze radio network. All right, let's go down to our 4 on the floor, our mini music marathon for this hour. And what of the does the log show that I have in the... we've got Cake, The Distance. Remember that song from the 1990s? We'll play that one for you, and we'll also do some Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, the classic song, Still the Same. So they're 2 songs I'm going to mention. And I'm coming out of the Faith No More song, Epic. What a big song that was. That was huge on the radio back in the day. We'll play that one for you. So I'll be back announcing out of Epic, and then I'll be talking about those 2 songs to kick off the 4 on the floor, our mini music marathon for this hour. Let's go. There goes Faith No More and their all-time classic. It's Epic on Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive. It's time now for this hour's 4 on the floor, our final one for this Thursday afternoon. Got Cake's big song, Going the Distance. Going to play that for you very shortly. And Bob Seger's in with the classic, Still the Same. They're on the way in 4 on the floor. That's on the way next. All right. So that's what we're doing there. So that's our 4 on the floor voice track done. We've just got to wait for the system to save it. As I say, it's Play Out Live. We run the web-based version of the software to do the voice tracking parts that I do. So we're coming out of Green Day, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. There was a classic from the 90s as well. So we're going to do that one, coming out of that one at the end of the 4 on the floor. So here we go. All right, and then I've got to go into Eric Clapton. His big ballad, Wonderful Tonight. That was a good song. We'll play that one for you. But let's go into, well, let's come out of Green Day, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. Green Day, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. Phaze Rock's Classic Rock Drive, playing the big songs of the 70s, 80s and 90s every weekday. Wrapping up this hour's 4 on the floor together with Crowded House. Coming up in the musical mix next, I've got some classic Eric Clapton. All right, nice and short. Now, the last voice track of the hour, we don't have news at 6, so I've got to do a brief weather forecast, which will encompass slightly a little bit of the evening forecast, but mainly focused on tomorrow's, which is Friday for me. So if you're watching this video later, it's actually been recorded on a Thursday afternoon, getting it ready for the voice tracking for a Thursday drive shift. All right, let's get into the last voice track of the hour, which will happen at around about 9 minutes to the hour. So we'll do that. 9 minutes to 6 will be around the time this one will be aired. So let's get into it. So we're coming out of AC/DC's big song, You Shook Me All Night Long, from the Back in Black album. We're going to come out of that. So let's get into it. A dash of Akadaka on your drive home for a Thursday afternoon, and you shook me all night long. Down to low 4 degrees tonight, a shower or 2 tomorrow, top of 15 for our Friday, and showers increasing on Saturday with a top of 17. That's my time done for a Thursday. I'll catch you tomorrow for a Thank God It's Friday edition of Classic Rock Drive from 3. I'll talk to you then. All right, there you go. That is a 3-hour radio shift. A few blunders in the video, but hey, look, that's the way it works. That's how we do it. You make mistakes in what you do. That's why I love doing voice tracking and also production work, because if you make a mistake, you can fix it up. So anyway, you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope this was a little bit of something different having your feed. I'll catch you soon.